All right. Thanks for joining me, Josefina. We're here. We're going to chat a little bit about your career pathway. So let's start off by just tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us what your educational pathway and your path to your career has been like. And
Yeah, thank you. Well, I was born in Mexico and my parents brought me over when I was 4 years old. I had seen a little bit of snow, but nothing like this. So we arrived in December of 1990, back when it would really, really dump, really, really snow. Um, so that was a big culture shock for me, and I didn't know English either. And then I started my academic journey at Bijou Elementary School, and I went through the Lake Tahoe Unified School District um, process here in town, and then through Avid, I learned about state schools and UCs and other options, other pathways, success pathways. But I decided to come here to LTCC, and I'm glad that I did. And small setting, really personalized guidance, everything from financial aid to counselors and, again, small class size. And then I transferred to Sacramento State. I transferred as a liberal studies major, and getting there, I changed my path. I said, I really want to focus on Spanish. I think it's identity affirming. I would like to teach Spanish in a way that doesn't center everything around Spain, brings in this linguistic richness from other countries. And switched my major. So I got my bachelor's in Spanish with a minor in multicultural education. I went through the teaching credential program there, and I saw the importance of pursuing a master's thanks to former guidance from like elementary school teachers or high school teachers, just teachers that really saw me, guidance counselors. And that's where I started my career. I started teaching at a local high school there, teaching Spanish culture. I had the opportunity to teach Spanish 1 all the way up to AP language and literature. So I feel very proud of that, because it was also a very healing experience for myself to learn more about the language that I speak, that I've spoken since birth, and hearing that, but also this um, richness, like I said earlier, that comes from other countries, and how we all contribute to this Latinidad, Latin culture. And I thought, okay, I'm a teacher now and I'm slowly growing, and I want to retire after 30 years. But I experienced some severe health issues that required a lot of attention. And I went from teaching full-time to part-time. And I had the opportunity to work with adults. And that really added to my personal lens, my academic lens, employment lens, just, I guess, my overall empathetic lens. And I think where I am now in this position as HSI director, being back in Tahoe after 14 years, all of that has really shaped me. Working with adults, understanding how that is so relevant to some of the population of students that we have here, students that take breaks, our returning students, and meeting those students where they are, the hour in which we hold a meeting, or what we provide, or how we talk to students that are a little older, not, fresh out of high school. I think having health issues and really having to change the rhythm of my life and the cadence also adds an empathy lens, being able to connect to different students or just people in general. Because I know what it's like to be hospitalized and have major surgery. And just overall redesigning my new pathway to success. I didn't work for 2 years, and that was during the pandemic. But then when I did go back to work, I said, let me try something completely new, but slowly ties in, or somehow ties into education. And I was doing community outreach. So I felt like it was kind of like a little like lesson planning and meeting with students and their families. But I found that that wasn't really for me. So I'm really glad that this position opened back up, and there's a great team and we have a lot of work ahead of us, but it's a very exciting time to be back at LTCC. A lot of changes, definitely not the campus that I graduated from back in 2006. But all of that to say, I know that was all over the place, but it's okay to change your set of goals, your academic plan, your educational plan, and really focus on what's working for you. You know, and sometimes life throws these curveballs, and it's okay to pause and say, okay, this does not mean I'm a failure if I change careers or pause or tap into something new. Because you can reconstruct your pathway towards success at any time. One of the ways that I like to do that and kind of maintain, I guess, my mental acumen is just reading, tapping into different fields, connecting with different people. Just so I try to know a little bit as much as I can about all these different things, so I'm able to connect with different people and just know that there are options out there. That's another reason why I got my master's and maybe in the future a PhD, just to give myself an opportunity to explore different things, not limit myself. Mhm.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. So you mentioned that you're the HSI director at LTCC. What does that job entail? What type of education do you need to be in a position like that? And what does it look like for your day to day?
Yes. So I October 19th will mark 2 months in this new position. It's very exciting, and I like that no 2 days have been the same, but I'm slowly getting a rhythm. Um, this position, you know, because this might come up for a student, but I remember reading the application and saying, oh, do I need to have a PhD? And I went through a little bit of imposter syndrome. And I think it's important to say that because it's okay if you have those moments, but bringing it back to your set of talents and saying, I can do this. I have a master's, I have experience. So my experience in education, being able to say I've worked with students, high school age students, um, adults and older adults. So being able to work with different age groups is a plus. Because here at the college, we'll see so many types of students and their families. That academic background, definitely a master's, being bilingual. So HSI is a designation, Hispanic serving institution. And it's an important designation that this college now has because it serves 25% or more. So it's a federal designation given to academic institutions. Think of like tribal colleges or historically Black colleges, where you serve students with the intention to bring in identity affirming curriculum, have activities on campus that help them feel a sense of belonging, both in the classroom and outside the classroom. It's a way to provide, it's almost like a guided pathway. And what we're trying to do is center it around STEM. So encourage those students that have either declared their major or are thinking of STEM, helping them through their classes, making sure that they know that there's tutoring available, that there are internships available, counseling, and this program that we're slowly building that will follow them through graduation. The idea is to build successful cohorts and follow students. I think the biggest goal that I have with this program is a sense of agency. The student enrolls, we serve them, and we serve their culture, and then they graduate with this sense of agency. They walk with this power, like I can do it. I am STEM. I will be successful. So providing a toolbox that student can carry through, the next institution they transfer to, or grad school, or their employment. Mhm. So day to day, meeting with the team, meeting with different departments, with community, um, learning about budgeting, this very robust grant. So I think that's another thing that I would like students to know. That's why I was excited to do this interview, that you can be in a new position and also be learning. You're using your skill set and building off of that. I think it's important to be vulnerable and say, I don't know how to do this, but I'm going to learn, or I wasn't as well versed, but I will become. So it's an opportunity to motivate students. I'm excited to do this work.
Great, thanks. So you did mention a few skills and what your background is in education. What are skills do you think that are important to having a job such as yours? What types of people do well in this position?
I think definitely being bilingual, being able to communicate clearly and effectively in two languages. And I find myself also the ability to code switch. For example, when you're with families and students, one of my future projects is a family STEM night. So the way I'm going to be talking to students and communicating that will be very different from family. So let's say I'm giving the presentation in Spanish. I will change it and not center it so much on academic Spanish, meeting people where they are. So definitely being able to clearly communicate in verbal and written form, knowing your audience. I think that empathy piece comes in. Really understanding what first generation students are all about. Um, when a first generation student is going off to college, the entire family is going off to college. So really also educating and preparing that entire family. I think about my own experience being first generation. That's another big part of HSI, for low income and first generation students that qualify in the program. Being a good listener, listening to different ideas. It's a very talented team, but I know that at times we may not all agree. So being able to listen, compromise, and also asking for their feedback. Like before this interview, I checked in with the outreach coordinator and retention specialist, and being able to say, hey, what worked today? Provide praise and also ask for feedback. What can I do to better delegate or to lead? So definitely being open to constructive criticism, asking questions, 'cause you're not going to know everything, and the willingness to. One thing I've been trying to do is reaching out to different areas across the college, everything from veterans to the accessibility center to different faculty members. How can HSI work with all of these different components? So we are serving all students, but it's the importance of curating um, this community that historically has been underserved. Making sure that they succeed. Mhm.
Thank you. So in your current position, or it could be a past position, what is your favorite part of your job, or what are you looking forward to? And then the second part of that is, what's the most challenging thing? Um, or what, what surprised you about the role?
Yeah, I really like this question. I think I'm going to talk a little bit when I was teaching high school and now. I so when I knew I wanted to teach, I thought, okay, I'm going to work with younger kids. I was volunteering at elementary school at Bijou, actually, I developed a strong relationship, a good relationship with my 3rd and 4th grade teacher. So I was able to go back and kind of give back in a sense. So I said, oh yeah, this is the age group. But as I was older and took different classes like child development, I said, I think high school is the age group for me. Being able to joke around with students, really get to know them and their families. That was probably one of my favorite things about the job. And I think about when I was working in San Jose, East Side San Jose, and we did a Day of the Dead, but it was more than that. It was really this amazing family experience where we did a walking tour of all these altares for the Day of the Dead. And it brought in the community, and it was healing, and we could talk about academics, but also culture, that beautiful blend. Or just, I think students enjoyed the class and enjoyed the balance of learning Spanish, but in a very engaging way, and learning culture as well. But I also wanted my students to leave my class with other skills like kindness. And sometimes students surprise you. I had a student who just brought in a bunch of donuts one day because he said that was one of the things he learned in class, to be kind, to check in with students, to make sure students are okay. So that was a proud moment for myself. And here at LTCC, I think my ties to the basin, even though I wasn't born here, but I was raised here, to be able to be back with all the academic preparation and life experiences. I was actually telling Michelle Batista this. She asked me after my first or second week how I was doing, and I said, it's the first job I've ever had where I don't want to miss a day, because it's very exciting to be here. And there's so much talent, so much to learn, but that also comes with a lot of the challenges. Because I see this grant, it has this Latinx framework, and I really wanted to remain that way. I don't want that to get lost around rhetoric, let's serve all students, because this was really created as a way to boost numbers for underserved students, so just making sure that I am almost, well, yes, assertive, but also protective of the funds, the direction of the grant. So we do serve the students that we are saying we are going to serve. I think that's going to be a challenge, a good challenge. I don't want to just be Latinx enrolling. I want this institution to be Latinx serving.
Yeah.
And with teaching, I like the freedom I have now. Sometimes with teaching, you're really in a silo. And here, if you don't really get out, it's going to be very tough to get things done. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you. So if you were to go back and do everything in your career path over again, would you take the same route, or would you do things differently?
Wow, that's a very powerful question. I now my 36-year-old self would definitely tell that young version of myself, be very confident in this almost magic, this power that you have, being bilingual, being bicultural, biliterate, and study abroad. If I were to do things differently, I would definitely would love to have done that, because I find myself now traveling in my free time as much as I can. I think it really adds to your global dexterity and your understanding of other people, different settings. So I would definitely would love to do that. And I would be a proponent of that. Definitely. If there's an opportunity, definitely go abroad, see the world. There's more to the world than just, the basin, because I think living here is so beautiful, but it's so insular, and we get into this routine. So to summarize, yes, take advantage of any opportunities to travel. And it's hard when you're a teenager. There's so many factors, puberty, pressure at school, but um, acknowledging your cultural richness, that's very important. I think at times I felt embarrassed. I went through some discriminatory things that can definitely impact your self-esteem. But what I'm seeing now with the newer generations, so many resources for them, like bilingual books and podcasts, and like today I'm wearing a Selena shirt. These are kind of things that I wasn't able to do before. I didn't feel safe. So I love that through your clothing, your music, you can definitely boost culture and slowly empower students.
Great advice and good reflections. Are there any other pieces of advice that you would give to students or people who want to pursue a similar path to you and work in education?
I think as we've seen in recent years, even prior to COVID, it's a poorly paid profession. And that's something that I knew going in. So I would definitely encourage people going into education to consider either a master's or a PhD or slowly moving into a leadership role. Because it's heartbreaking sometimes where you're teaching, you're giving it your all, but you can't make ends meet. I know we've seen a lot of school districts go on strike, and a lot has come of it. Teachers getting better salaries. So I would encourage getting a master's or beyond. And especially if they're going to go into K through 12, I think it's very important to meet, maybe job shadow or observe or collaborate outside of your department. That's one thing that I did a lot. I would observe the science teachers, how they would do different activities, how they would establish rapport with students, and bring that into my own classroom. So not limiting yourself, thinking, well, they teach something else. There's no common ground. So stepping outside of your comfort zone. And I think it's also important to stay abreast of things happening in education or your particular field. Because that's how I learned to kind of see my skill set and see myself doing something else, not limiting myself. When I left teaching full time and said, what am I going to do? How can I use my skills? I would definitely encourage students it's okay to pause, reflect, have that introspective period, and really believe you can do something else, even if it's completely different or within the same sphere, just in a different capacity.
Great. So finally, last question. If you were to tell yourself something as an 18-year-old, if you could give yourself advice besides going abroad, what would you tell your 18-year-old self?
I think it's, I kind of spoke a little bit about this, but the confidence, just that positive self-talk. You can do this, you are capable, you have the skill set, especially sometimes, not in all families, but an immigrant first generation family, there's so much going on and your parents want the best for you, but they may not always have the time, or maybe they didn't learn themselves how to motivate you. So learning to do that for yourself, whether it's, grabbing a brush, talking to yourself in the mirror and saying, I could do this. I look good today, or I did so well on that presentation at school. Definitely tapping into your self-confidence. And I think sometimes that's misinterpreted. It's not that you're being or you think you're better than other people. It's just knowing how to carry yourself in different spaces. That definitely helps you in different areas of life. Not forgetting to laugh, because sometimes life gets so busy and then it gets so serious, and that importance behind laughter and joy. And maybe tied into that, just being able to breathe and say, if this didn't work out, it's going to be okay. I can start again tomorrow. And isn't that a platitude? It's really just being able to say, I did my best. Tomorrow's a brand new day. I think there's just so many external factors that pressure us, whether it be maybe the goals and dreams of your parents that they're planting in you because, they moved here so you can have a better life. So just being kind to yourself.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing your experiences and your advice. All really good and interesting, and hope lots of students listen. Students can find Josefina on campus at LTCC if they want to connect, right?
Yes, I know the campus is under construction and we're all in different areas, but I am the last cubicle. I'm the closest cubicle to equity. So,
Cool.
yes.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.